It's finally time for the main event,
Right.
laying the tile.
Let's do it.
What kind of magic glue do we need for this?
Well, that magic glue is called mortar, and choosing the right type is crucial. And the video introduces this concept of large format tile,
Okay.
which basically means any tile that has a side longer than 12 inches.
Okay.
And for these big boys,
Right.
you need a special mortar that's designed to handle their weight and prevent them from sliding around.
They were using some pretty big tiles, weren't they?
Yeah, 12 by 24, so definitely large format territory.
Okay.
The specific brand they use isn't super important, but what is important is you look for a mortar that's specifically designed for large format tile. And it usually says so right on the bag.
So it's like picking the right paint for the job.
Exactly.
You wouldn't use exterior paint on your interior walls.
Right.
Same principle.
Exactly. And while we're talking about those instructions on the bag, the video really emphasizes the importance of following the instructions, especially when it comes to mixing the mortar.
Okay.
Yeah,
So no eyeballing it.
definitely not.
Yeah.
You want to mix only what you can use in about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it starts to harden and you end up with a bucket of useless rock-hard mortar.
Not the kind of DIY souvenir I'm looking for.
Right.
Okay, so we've got our perfectly mixed mortar. We're ready to spread it like, well, not frosting, because that'd be a terrible idea.
Right.
So how do we actually apply it?
Well, they demonstrate this really simple technique using a notched trowel.
Okay.
So you first spread a thin layer with the flat side of the trowel, and then you create these ridges with the notched side, and you hold the trowel at about a 45-degree angle, and these ridges are actually what grip onto the tile and create a strong bond.
Interesting. I always thought you just like slathered it on like peanut butter.
Yeah.
Who knew there was such a precise method?
There's a science to everything, even tile laying.
Right.
And speaking of precision, the video also really emphasizes working in manageable areas to prevent the mortar from drying out before you can set the tile.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want to end up with like half your floor covered in rock-hard mortar.
Sure.
Okay, so we're ready to start placing those tiles. What are the key things to keep in mind for this step?
Well, first, they recommend mixing tiles from several boxes to make sure you get a good blend of shades, because even tiles from the same batch can have slight variations.
Okay.
They also point out that you should try to get all your tiles from the same color lot, which is kind of like a batch number for tile. This is especially important if you have a larger room to avoid any noticeable differences in color.
So it's like making sure all your paint cans have the same coat on them.
Exactly.
Details matter.
They do.
So where do they suggest starting the actual tile placement?
They advise starting in the corner of the room
Oh, wait.
on the last reference line closest to the wall.
Okay.
And they have a pretty strong warning about not using the room walls as guides,
Okay.
because walls are rarely perfectly square,
Right.
and relying on them can actually throw off your entire layout.
That's a good point. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
So it's all about those reference lines.